Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Utah Stories podcast. I am Richard Marcosian. If you've been watching the podcast, it has been 3 weeks since we recorded our last podcast. This is because we lost our main driver and we had to get this magazine out to our 600 locations all over Utah, and I had to step up. That's what you do when you own a business. If somebody flakes out, you got to step up. And Isaiah, if you're out there, call me because I still could use your help. This happens with drivers a lot. It's a high turnover position. It's a part-time position. We really rely on good, consistent people. Isaiah has been my main driver. He's an awesome guy, but I'm sure he had some sort of terrible problem. But we're looking for drivers. So if you need a part-time gig, you want to earn about $20 an hour driving and delivering magazines, we could actually use you right now. But I'm really excited to do the show again. We actually broke 3 big stories, 4 actually, if you count all the stories we broke in this issue. It's kind of a different sort of magazine. Most magazines that are free are very lifestyle oriented, not really journalism. But I came into this world from working at the student newspaper, and I studied documentary film. And really my objective from the beginning has been find unique local content and voices that really need to be heard. Find people who have stories that are endemic to what's happening across Utah. And we've really done it in this issue. I actually think we hit a home run. I'm very proud of this issue. Awesome stories from the Utah Investigative Journalism Project, breaking the story on the Utah Theater. There's some corruption, it looks like, there, where a developer gave our mayor $20,000. In return, it looks like she gave him a building worth $5 million. And he's going to demolish this historic Utah Theater, and he's going to build luxury condos when he was promising he was going to build affordable housing. We broke that story. It went really well online. Tons of comments from people about that. I'm going to tell you about the 3 other stories that we broke in this issue. But before I get to that, I want to tell you about Canyon Meadows Grassfed Beef. Canyon Meadows is a ranch actually in Altamont, Utah, where they practice sustainable regenerative agriculture. And so if you are new to what that means, the cows actually regenerate the soil biology and activity in the soil because they mow a small area, they defecate and poop around there, the poop decomposes, it makes the soil stronger and healthier, then they move on to a new area, they don't overgraze, and so their ranch is amazingly beautiful. You got to check out a documentary I produced on them a few years back to see what I'm talking about. But the point is, the cows are happy, healthy, and they practice environmentally friendly agriculture. And the beef is amazing. It's wonderful, grass-finished beef. And I like it better than grain-fed beef by a long shot. If you haven't tried grass-fed beef, you got to go try them. Visit cmrbeef.com. And they're still offering a special discount if you mention Utah Stories. It's actually up to $50 off if you order a box of steaks, ribs. I smoke their briskets. I can highly recommend their brisket. If you go get one and you like to smoke beef, it's unbelievable how great the flavor is. You get more meaty flavor in grass-fed beef. You get more tenderness. There's some good videos that compare grass-fed beef to grain-finished beef. It's just more flavorful, and it's similar to how olive oil is to butter. It just has more of that omega-3 fat in it and less of the the bad cholesterol, the fat in it. So it's going to be better for you, better for the earth, and better for the environment. So go visit cmrbeef.com right now. Okay, so speaking of local ranchers, like I said to you, we broke the story about how ranchers in Liberty, Utah are having their water stolen from them. So 30 years ago, they bought their water shares they had their water shares with their ranch, and they were able to fill their pond, and they were able to, feed their hay all summer long and get multiple harvests. Now, even though they have the water shares, they're getting far less water than they used to. And obviously, water varies year to year depending on how much snow is in the mountains, but it's obvious that upstream from them, these development projects are taking more and more of their water. Why is this such a big deal? This is endemic across all of Utah. Every single beautiful place in Utah where there's been farms and ranches is being heavily developed. And so it was originally just around Park City and actually former mining towns all over the west, Aspen, Vale, Telluride, Park City. They already had the infrastructure in place, and they already had the roads up into the mountains in place because of the mining operations. Now, this building multi-million-dollar mansions is not happening in Park City anymore, because a mansion in Park City costs like 10, 20, 30 million dollars. You can build a mansion in Eden or in the Ogden Valley for far less than that, $2, $3, $4 million. So a lot of money is moving into this valley, and I don't think that enough people are stopping to think about what happens if we build over all of our best farmland. We simply will run out of sustainable agriculture. We're not going to have the beef. We're not going to have the produce. We need to have nearly enough food for our growing population. And the question is, why does that matter? Why not just import all our food and beef? Well, look what happened during coronavirus. Look what happened at every single grocery store in the beginning of the virus. The store shelves were clean and empty. Everybody just bought everything they could possibly buy. And if we don't grow it here locally, and we're dependent on California, Mexico for all of our produce and meat, there's no question those supply chains will run out when we have another pandemic. And it's not a question of if. We certainly will have another pandemic, and it's going to happen. So I want to play you a clip now from the video. This is just a small clip from the documentary film we are working on about water issues in Utah. And this is my interview with a ranching family called the Hadlocks, who live in Liberty, Utah, talking about what their farm and ranch has gone through.
1949 they started selling the ranches, and I was working at stockyards then.
If they don't take care of the farmer and the rancher, you're not going to have food in the grocery store. And it's sad that in the education field, a lot of kids have no clue where their food comes from besides Smith's, Walmart,
That's a good point. Yeah.
You have to take care of your farmer and your rancher.
Yeah.
And water is a very crucial end for that farmer and rancher.
Can't keep as many animals anymore because you can't grow as much hay.
Well, you can keep the same amount of animals, but you're going to buy hay or something from somebody else because you're not raising enough here. Like this year, we only raised
One crop.
There was maybe 10 bales there, and usually we're getting up to 19 or 20 bales.
So yeah, I'm really excited about this project because we have some incredible interviews with the old man you saw there, that his name is Bill Hadlock. He was running the Browning Ranch for 55 years, and he's been in the area since he was 8 years old. And he just describes the changes that have happened over the years. And his son Lex is the other gentleman speaking there, and his sister, his daughter-in-law, Carrie, was probably the most outspoken and articulate about the problems. But I mean, I guess the natural tendency is to think, well, why should this matter so much if they are literally sitting on a gold mine where they could cash out their land and make a fortune by selling. Why are they upset? And the reason is they actually have their priorities straight. It's like not everybody in this world cares about money more than land and being in connection with the environment. And if we, I think the main point is all of the land that is beautiful in Utah, there are now people coming here who want to buy that land and build on top of it. But why is that land beautiful? It's of course beautiful because of the open spaces, the streams, the rivers. The seasons are just so pronounced when you have all these scrub oak all around you and you have all this wildlife nearby. You have elk coming down into the fields in the late fall. I have a clip where these turkey are out there feeding and elk are coming down. It's just incredible. I mean, we actually tried to move there 3 years ago, and I don't think we can afford the real estate there now with the size of home we'd want to have, but it's just, you feel this pronouncement of every single season, and then you feel this connection because you can go up in these trails, you can hike all day long and then go over in the valleys, not even see anybody. And it's just this wonderful place, but that's going to all be ruined if they just continue to build. And then it's going to be like just Park City again. Park City, it's a nice place, but you're not going to find solitude in Park City. You're not going to find many places where you can just sit and only hear the stream that's in front of you. So I'm not a typical environmentalist because I strongly believe that hunting and agriculture, when they are done properly, they can actually, nature can benefit from those activities. I know a lot of hunters, and we do a lot of hunting stories, and maintaining the herds at proper levels and having the Forest Service and the Division of Natural Resources with the ability to have a budget that is generated through hunting permits, it's a wonderful thing. And so I am both a proponent of hunting and agriculture and the environment, but you can have it all ways. So I think where we lose track of maintaining a good environment is just by overdeveloping, overbuilding areas that have been traditionally wilderness areas or traditionally farms that are in close connection with wilderness areas. And the Ogden Valley is absolutely one of these areas. It's just, it's a beautiful place. And I mean, it's not by any misconception that you have a town called Eden there and you have a place called Paradise there. It is just an amazingly beautiful place. So I looked up some quotes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. I was a big fan of Emerson when I was in my early 20s and started reading more about his essays that he produced about nature and the connectivity that man has and the relationship man has with nature. And Emerson says that one can feel at nature and one with oneself by going into nature with an attitude of solitude. He says one perceives a new God and a new body and becomes one with his or her surroundings. So Emerson confidently exemplifies transcendentalism, which is, this oneness we can feel when we're in nature, stating, from earth as a shore, I look out into the silent sea. I seem to partake its rapid transformations. The active enchantment reaches my dust, and I dilate, and I conspire with the morning wind. And essentially, Emerson concluded that there are three modes of worship. The most common and basically the most prevalent form of worship is worshiping wealth and man's creations. We all feel like we want more stuff, more money, more abundance in terms of monetary wealth. That is the most base form of worship. But we can worship the creations of God or the Creator through nature, through growing a garden, through walking or running in nature, by sitting by a stream. And so, have you ever sat and wondered, why is it we like sitting by streams? Why is it we like the sound of the water coming down a mountainside or down a river? And Emerson believed that it's because we can connect with our own essence by sitting beside a stream. We actually get in contact with the form and the spirit from which we've been created. And we can essentially sense our own temporal nature by watching the stream. You know, we are only going to be here for so long. Water maintains a form for a very short time before it changes from ice and snow into water and then falls down a hillside, ends up into the sea, and then back up into a cloud again after it evaporates. That same cycle and process is actually in our own form. We are going to one day turn to dust, and then the dust that was us will take on a new form, just as water did. So it's a deep concept, but if you think about it, the connectivity that we have is that we are essentially all part of this creation that is on Earth. And if we think that building over the top of it, or that we're becoming better connected with nature by building some, massive square foot house in a beautiful place, I hate to say, but I don't think that's gonna work. I don't think that's gonna do it for these people. So this, going back to the way I see the way in which we build our cities and towns, is that we fail to recognize the intrinsic need we have, and we fail to recognize this intrinsic need we have to feel connection with nature and our surroundings is not built into the way we're developing our cities and towns. Everything is bought. Everything is commoditized. So somebody who has got enough money can buy all the water rights of a stream and then just divert the stream through their property. That stream should not be bought or sold. That stream should be part of the community and should be used as needed. That's how it was in Liberty. That's actually why they called the town that name. And if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see that I go up into the mountains all the time with my dogs. I really like to experience the seasonal changes. And I see just a fundamental problem with the way we're developing, where our state leaders are neglecting this. And I think this story did incredibly well online over the weekend. We had our biggest weekend of online traffic that we've ever had. I actually did not expect it to do that well, because it's the kind of journalism I like to do, where we just go out. This is Bill Hadlock. You saw him in the clip before, but we just go out and talk to these ranchers and just say, hey, what do you think about what's going on? And they were so articulate, and the story, I think, did turn out really great. I'm just so pleased to see that so many people shared the story. We had 5,000 unique visitors on Sunday. I mean, and the story's now gotten over, I think, 12,000 unique visitors. That may not sound like a huge number, but that is actually the biggest number we've had in such a short period of time for any one story, which is super exciting for me, because this is the type of journalism I absolutely want to create. It's just finding people who have something to say about an injustice that's occurring, and who have a deep insight into a problem that's actually affecting everybody, and then presenting their voice to everyone else. That's absolutely what I'm passionate about doing with Utah Stories. And I think COVID has actually brought me back to the roots of why it is I do this. When you find a big chunk of your income is just gone, you might as well just go back and do what you did, in the beginning. And that's what I've had to do, and that's what we've all done, I think. And it's actually been super, super fun to do. And while that clip and this story might seem like really sad and depressing, I find it super encouraging that it's done so well, because we are beginning to understand what is it that makes the West special. Why did the pioneers, so many of them, nearly kill themselves to come out here? I mean, it's a desert. We live in the Great Basin. It's like there's so little water that falls on the ground here, and it's a much more difficult lifestyle. But the reason we came here was to escape the mindset of the big cities, which is just powered by greed. But if that mindset enters into our Western traditions and destroys the Western traditions, nobody's going to like it here anymore. It's going to turn into California. And I think that by talking to the people who exemplify the Western traditions, we can get that story out and more people can understand we need to put the brakes on and we need to look at what we are actually doing. Okay, so I want to tell you about the other 3 stories we broke in this issue, but before I do, I'll tell you about Green Bikes of Salt Lake City. Green Bikes is a nonprofit bike share that connects employment and residential centers to transit stops and popular entertainment destinations. Green Bike seeks to improve community health and air quality and increase the use of existing transit infrastructure. Green Bike is a local nonprofit, public-private partnership between Salt Lake City, the Utah Transit Authority, Select Health, and other private sponsors. To date, Green Bikers have removed 5.8 million vehicle miles from local roads, prevented more than 5 million pounds of CO2 from entering our air, all while burning 76 million calories in the process. That's 267,000 slices of pizza. So to learn more about Green Bikes and to find out how you can take as many rides as you want for a year for less than 20 cents a day, follow Green Bike on social media at SLC Bike Share or visit greenbikeslc.org. Okay, so the other stories I already touched on, the Utah Theater story where our mayor got a very nice gift and then she gave back a very interesting gift to a developer. I suggest you go check out Utah Theater, SaveUtahTheater.com. It's a really great way to get involved with that group because I think this should be saved. It's the former Orpheum Theater on Main Street in downtown Salt Lake City. I just want to show you this picture of what it looks like. It's just the most spectacular old theater. I think it's way cooler in its style and design than the Eccles Theater. It reminds me of the Capitol Theater. It's very, very similar to what the design was. But it's like just beautiful, ornate. They're saying it would take $150 million to renovate it. I think that there's a much better idea out there. And just a very basic idea is turn it into a Utah history museum. We all know the predominant history of Utah, but there's like an alternative history out there, which is that there were immigrants that really made this city what it is. There were 2 Jewish immigrant brothers who started Auerbach's department store. That department store became the counterbalance to the LDS department store, which was the ZCMI Center. There's so much interesting history. There was massive cigar rolling operations going on. There was brothels in the city. If you go and look at the Shipler collection, you can go revisit so much of the amazing history of downtown Salt Lake. And I think that's what it should be. Make it into a history museum, charge an entry fee, improve it over time, have it making some revenue, maybe sell made in Utah products in there, and do that. You don't have to renovate it to exactly the way it was before. So anyway, we broke that. That did very well. The other story that we broke that did very well was the story on the sidewalk debacle, I'll call it, in Sugar House. So Sugar House is one of the most local places in all of Salt Lake City, and they were going to build this sidewalk project right in the middle of the pandemic. And all these, about 14 businesses thrive and survive on that block based on the ability for people to park in the parking lot. They were going to slice through Highland Drive, dig up the street, put a parking lot on it, and luckily that project was stopped because all the business owners got together and said, "You are going to kill us. We will not survive this." And luckily they stood up for their rights and it was stopped. Glad to see that. Sugar House needs to maintain its local business and local presence. It's one of the few places that hasn't been homogenized and corporatized. And if you want to do great holiday shopping, I'd suggest you check out all the little small shops in Sugar House and support them. Okay, and then the final story that we broke that I thought was really awesome was a mobile park development is going up in Centerville, and all the residents are being kicked out. These mobile parks were all over Utah, and this is, again, a story endemic to the progress, I suppose you call it, of higher real estate prices. The developers who bought out this mobile park can make a fortune, and they're just kicking everybody out to the curb right after Christmas time. And the problem is, any mobile home that is older than 20 years old cannot be moved. It's by state law that you cannot move a mobile home if you bought it more than 20 years ago. So these people are literally just out of luck. They're going to get a little paycheck. I think it said $2,000, $3,000, but then they're just done being able to live there. I just don't think that should be allowed. Developers, politicians working together to maximize property values. Excuse me. That shouldn't be allowed. It's just a way to create unaffordable housing. I thought the interest was to create affordable housing. So with that, I hope that you will. I'm going to wrap up the show. There's more I can tell you about, but we'll leave it at that. How you could help us with this program and getting it out there, of course, is by sharing it with a friend or two. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We've reached 1 million video views now. We've had 1 million views on our YouTube channel, which is awesome. It's mostly due to 4 stories. And you can check out our YouTube channel on that to see the 4 most popular stories that got us to 1 million views. And then you can follow us, like I said, on Instagram. But probably the best thing you can do, share this program with a friend and go subscribe to our digital newsletter at utahstories.com. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. And have a happy holidays.